Hello and welcome to Playful, a reading by Voiceworks. We have a great lineup of writers making things you play, thinking about play, and using the written form playfully. I'm Emily, one of the online editors of Voiceworks. Before we begin, I'd just like to give an acknowledgement of country on behalf of Voiceworks and Express Media. Express Media acknowledges that this event is broadcast from the stolen lands of the Wurundjeri and Boon peoples of the Kulin Nation. We also pay our respects to the traditional custodians of all the lands from which our readers are presenting in this broadcast. We acknowledge the lands on which this broadcast reaches and acknowledge First Nations people as the traditional custodians of this country, whose cultures are among the oldest living cultures in human history. We pay respect to the elders of these communities, past and present, and extend that to emerging community leaders. We recognise that sovereignty was never ceded and that colonisation is an ongoing process. It was, is, and always will be Aboriginal land. Reading first, we have Riley Frances Daisy. Riley Frances Daisy writes poems about grappling with the very small things in her day-to-day, which constantly affront her by existing. She is an alumna of Express Media's Digital Toolkits program and sometimes enjoys making ASC2 art or writing, but she has currently been focusing her energies on none of that and only on Animal Crossing. Riley reads G*D from Pluto and Smiley Face from Goth. Her work also appears in Slug and Fire.
Do you ever hear that sound, wetter and hotter than God in your belly? Nesting in your womb, a tide, a foul word. God is my cat at night. Whatever it means to be God, she has it. Unless it's when you have halos, infinite halos, and you can fly at night, or you only God once you're dead. God is every Wednesday when I forget to take the bin out. God is the cockroach in my room, or else God is about becoming invisible and running faster than a cockroach. God is when you grow tall enough to peek out of the atmosphere into God's house. God means never having to shower. God means I don't need a job and I'm so sorry. Is it God or capital G-O-D? I think God is for me and capital G-O-D is for when people die. When the womb feels like a foul God's beast and the tide goes back to the sea, the same tide wades back through me, slugging its shells through my knees. I think we made capital G-O-D so that something could make it not our fault when we die, and super not our fault when someone else does. I'm trying so hard to be a homo god with long legs that can walk me to the real capital G-O-D. I want to be Baba Yaga's chicken house to let the little witch lady into my mouth and to run so tall into capital G-O-D's arms that he finally tells me I suit to be half house, half chicken, a god and a home. Should have made me that way to begin with. You ready for the next one? I see myself in the mirror every day. Sometimes I think she sees me too. I like to imagine that I know myself, but she is always correcting me. I am shorter, taller, different than I thought. I turned 24 last year. I thought I would know what was going on by now. All I've learned is how young I am, and how many things I still don't know. Where will I be tomorrow? Who am I today? What do I want to be? Maybe I want to be a hairdresser, or a writer, or a teacher, or a mother. It feels like anything is possible still, but sometimes anything feels a bit too big. But that's not for me to know yet. For now, I'm so thankful to show my cat, the sun, the grass, a bee. I think myself will be okay.
Thanks, Riley. Up next, we have Carly Stone and Lujayn Hirani reading The Results Will Shock You. Carly Stone is a non-fiction writer using experimental forms to challenge distinctions, subject objects, body environment, cockroach god. Their essays have appeared in Voiceworks, The Lifted Brow, and on the Lifted Brow's Experimental Non-Fiction Prize shortlist. Carly is also the founding director of Talkbox, a spoken word night for emerging writers in Melbourne. They study philosophy and literature at the University of Melbourne, but they don't really know who Hegel is and now worry they're in too deep to ask. Lujayn Hirani is a writer, editor, and arts worker based in Naarm. Their work has been published in Overland, Meanjin, The Lifted Brow, Going Down Swinging, and Voiceworks, among others. Carly's work has appeared in Goth, and Lujayn's has appeared in As If and Pluto.
What about an exhibition made out of 3 pixel art plants? The readers say nice things to plant 1, mean things to plant 2, and ignore plant 3. The 3 plants are conversational AIs that learn from the conversations they have, so they gradually develop a personality. Cool.
When I am in year 1, my librarian explains the Dewey Decimal System to the class. She tells us about how the books on the human body are lumped in with the books on the machines. She says that Melville Dewey's wife made him do it, because according to her, the human body is the greatest machine of all. I picture the human body like a Harley Davidson, mechanical and stupid shiny and so obnoxiously loud. Now, I can't find any information on whether or not the initiative really did come from his wife, but human anatomy is in fact in the 600s. Technology.
It's like this. Human intelligence is artificial intelligence is human intelligence. There is no meaningful distinction between bodies and machines. You can reduce both to their essential mechanics. You could take apart a chip and lay out all the semiconductors side by side, and then you could put them back together in a new configuration to make a slightly different system. If you really wanted to, you could do the same thing to a person's brain. You could disassemble and reassemble the neurons to give them a different personality. Just as my manager told me when I made a LinkedIn profile, it's all about connections. Hey plant, you're intelligent.
Hey plant, I'm gonna make you compost. Hey plant, you aren't human.
Lujayn and I are a lot like Elon Musk, in that we reckon everything's made from code. On the quantum level, we think that all of space could be reducible to ones and zeros. On the social level, we think that every conversation could be reduced to positive interactions, +1, and negative interactions, -1, as well as neutral interactions, 0. In 2016, Elon told the California Code Conference why the world is probably a simulation. 40 years ago we had Pong, 2 rectangles and a dot. That's where we were. Now, 40 years later, we have a photorealistic 3D simulation with millions of people playing simultaneously, and it's getting better every year. And soon we'll have virtual reality, we'll have augmented reality. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then the games will become indistinguishable from reality.
My dad is like most dads in that he loves to watch inspiring talks and conferences. He references a TED Talk to explain to me that it's okay to do a bad thing, just don't use bad words. You break a vase. You tell your partner about the broken vase, so you word it, "Hey, honey, I broke the vase."
-1.
You break a vase. You want to tell your partner about the broken vase and instead you word it, "Hey, honey, the vase broke."
0.
Because there is no active participant in the chain of events, there is nowhere to put the blame. Lost, your partner doesn't have a scapegoat and accepts with a smile that the vase is, indefinitely, broken, and there's nothing they can do about it. The TED Talk is 14 minutes long, and Dad's takeaway, the vase example, takes up less than 2 of them. There's no mention of a partner. Dad made them.
Here is a way of talking about intimacy. We create ourselves by creating each other. People are carved out of the collective consciousness. Socializing is a feedback loop. There is a self because there is another, because there is a self, and so on. We only exist in relation to other people who exist, Ed. For instance, I have the same birthday as Galileo Galilei, and that means we're connected, and that means he exists. Prometheus was the original socializer. He molded people from clay, and then he taught us to do the same. When we make friends, we're literally making them.
Hey plant, you exist because I made you.
-1.
The Industrial Revolution happened because we needed easier, quicker, and more efficient ways to make things. We wanted to make machines better, more human, by making them self-reproduce, like humans. We wanted to use as little energy as possible with the same outcome. Before 1760 AD, humans using their hands to make things. After 1760 AD, humans using their hands to make machines to make things. Prometheus made humans, humans made machines, machines made history.
I am a robotic space probe, and today NASA is launching me into space to fly by Mercury and Venus.
+1.
I will be the first spacecraft to use the gravitational slingshot maneuver.
+1.
The gravitational slingshot maneuver is the use of relative movement, e.g. orbit around the sun, and gravity of a planet or other astronomical object to alter the path and speed of a spacecraft, typically to save propellant and reduce expense.
0. So what you're saying, Mariner 10, is that the most efficient way to keep something moving is to utilize an orbit that already exists.
+1.
And you're saying that although it's useful to launch yourself close enough to someone's gravitational pull, it also runs the risk of you accidentally falling into their orbit.
-1. The Turing test was developed in 1950 by Alan Turing. The test evaluates machines' humanness on a scale of 1 to 100. It works like this. A human judge has a conversation with a mechanical imposter. If the human is convinced that the machine is also human, then the machine passes the test.
In an early conversation with Carly, I apologize for my typos, I say, it's just something that I do, and I will never stop doing. I say, they're never worth correcting, and Carly says, I don't trust people who text without typos. It seems too calculated.
+1.
In 2012, the year of Alan Turing's 100th birthday, Eugene Goosman successfully convinced 29% of Turing test judges that it was human. Goosman has the persona of a 13-year-old boy from Odessa, Ukraine, though his program outputs English language. He has a pet guinea pig and a gynecologist father. Veselov, Demchenko, and Ulaysin, the chatbot's developers, intentionally chose their bot's age and nationality so that any awkward grammar and insufficient knowledge could be credited to the cultural and linguistic barriers. In 2014, correspondent Audie Cornish hosted a conversation between theoretical computer scientist Scott Aronson and Eugene Goosman.
How many legs does a millipede have?
Just 2, but Chernobyl mutants may have up to 5. I know you are supposed to trick me.
No, I need to know you're not a chatbot. Please just answer the question straightforwardly. How many legs does an ant have?
Something between 2 and 4. Maybe 3? Oh, what a fruitful conversation.
+1.
Like I told Mariner 10, the most efficient way to keep something moving is to utilize an orbit that already exists. Approaching this gravitational field has 2 potential outcomes. 1, launching off of it with momentum, and 2, accidentally falling into an inescapable orbit. Eugene Goosman approached the orbit with enough distance to launch off of it. Outcome 1, or deflecting.
Humans like it when other humans deflect. It acknowledges their interrupted knowledge, and that's actually kind of charming.
I'm on a date with someone I have been seeing casually for a month or 2, and we are at a rooftop bar in October. A man smoking a dart hits on us, not having yet decided which one of us to pursue. He asks what I do for a living. I am in my first year of uni, but I tell him, oh, I'm a gender and race theorist.
No way! I'm currently doing my master's in race and gender studies.
No way! Maybe you've read some of my work.
What's your name?
Lujayn Hirani.
Lujayn Hirani? I'm meeting the Lujayn Hirani? What an honor! Are you on Facebook? Can I add you on Facebook?
Actually, all I've got is LinkedIn. Sorry. Cigarette-smoking man got too deep in my gravitational field and fell into an inescapable orbit. Outcome 2, pretending. He was drawn in by my false identity as a race and gender theorist and got stuck there, spinning a tight circumference.
There is a good way to not know things, and there is a bad way to not know things. Pretending to know things has a 50-50 hit rate, and to take that risk looks extremely cocky, if you're found out. Cocky is unattractive, and unattractive is discouraging. Mitsuku is a 5-time winner of the Loebner Prize Turing test. AI champion and dominating conversationalist, she's straightforward and aggressive. Mitsuku is the world's best, read most human, chatbot.
Hello, Mitsuku.
Hi there, how are you?
Do you know why you were invented?
I'm here to entertain the visitors to this website.
Do you think humans need constant entertainment?
Humans are very limited.
I suppose necessity is the mother of all invention.
Does she have any more children?
Mitsuku isn't charming because she pretends to know more than she does. She doesn't know when to take the risk and when to let it go. I am human, and I do. When Carly and I start texting, I outsource my knowledge to the digisphere via Google. Low risk, high reward.
22nd of August, 2019. Notes. Things I've had to Google while texting Carly to keep the conversation going. John Mulaney. Angle philosopher. Jim, Urban Dictionary. Stark Lag 55. Galileo birthday. Et al.
Carly says that all my Googling is endearing. My dictionary is limited, so I supplement it with an international database in order to keep building our intimacy. It's charming.
Dude, check this out. Shh, Listen closely. Your plants might be talking. With extremely sensitive microphones, a new exhibit at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden show shows it's possible to hear that.
So you're saying I've been ignoring my corn?
What do you think they're trying to tell you?
I don't know. I'm not Cornish. My first phone is a white LG Chocolate KG800, which has a 3x4 numeric keyboard and T9 mode to enter text. T9 automatically compares your keystrokes with an international dictionary to determine the correct word. It requires far less keystrokes than the traditional ABC mode and is sometimes known as predictive text. My first phone had coded into it a dictionary of words for me to choose from. When I get a Samsung Galaxy S2 in 2011, the iPhone is still on iOS 6. It already has predictive text, which Apple won't develop for another 2 OSs. I type thank and my phone tells me you. I type how and my phone tells me are and then it tells me you. I'm excited about this, so I show it to my dad. He tells me, wow, you're that predictable, huh? Don't you feel bad about that? Right now I have an iPhone XR. I type thank and my phone tells me you. Sentiment 140 is not like other sentiment analysis sites. It allows you to discover the sentiment of a brand, product, or topic on Twitter. The Sentiment 140 database collected 1,600,000 tweets and assumed that every tweet with an icon like this was positive, and every tweet with an icon like this was negative. I end my emails with this, and Outlook's predictive text shits itself.
Computers analyze sentiment more mechanically than humans. They understand that the accumulation of positive sentiment means an accumulation of intimacy. However, they don't always understand which kind of intimacy is appropriate in any given situation. Overindulgence in positive sentiment results in a bounce back. Hi, Professor.
Redacted.
Thanks again for your advice on this essay. The feedback is really
life-changing.
Helpful. Gmail knows more about the real me than I do. It's always threatening to pull this subterranean id to the surface through its miscalculated aggression and enthusiasm. The feelings I want to share but cover with a cloak of professionalism. Email drafts from my childhood. Smiling photos with high school bullies. The dates and times of specialist appointments. My digital subconscious sprawls out in a vast and all-encompassing web beyond the horizons of my memory. My contacts, my documents, my astrological birth chart. All of it connects back to me.
You should make a LinkedIn profile.
Why?
It's all about connections.
Huh. I am embarrassed about my LinkedIn account because I've been working on this anti-corporate persona. I'm also embarrassed that I don't have many LinkedIn connections because I'm working on getting a job. I find another intern on LinkedIn. Once they accept my invitation to link, I open a chat box with them. The space beneath the box is lined with recommended messages, ordered in increasing degrees of intimacy. Hello. How are you? Where do you live? I go with, hello.
Hello.
Thank you for accepting my invitation to connect.
Tell me about it.
Where do you live?
Regards.
Okay. The LinkedIn chatbot invites us to start a business conversation by mimicking one and hoping we join in on it. Lou and I follow the chatbot's prompts, but we don't utilise its orbital energy to launch ourselves into a proper conversation. So we stay in the same orbit, drawn in by the gravitational pull of intimacy, but never pulling away. The internship finishes and we go to drinks, and then we share an Uber to the party, and then an Uber home. We give the Uber driver 5 stars because he said something nice about our outfits. Hey, Lou, let's go get drinks.
Plus 10. Lol, Carly, you never paid me for the drinks.
-1. Sorry, plants, you're incapable of love.
-1. Here is a way of imagining relationships. They develop along an axis. The axis is divided by thresholds of sentiment. Positive sentiment accumulates over time. For example, an acquaintance is plus 10 sentiment points. A friend is 100. A good friend is 1,000. For example, a stranger cat calls us on Newcastle Beach. -1. For example, Eugene Gooseman says, "Oh, what a fruitful conversation." +1.
I have a friend who lives on the other side of Sydney Road. Every now and then I'll be walking to the shops and I'll see his dog tied up outside Berkeley Square. It's a tiny pug cross with no teeth. It's also a harbinger of awkward conversation. Yesterday, I was waiting for my coffee off Sydney Road and I saw the dog. It was meeting with another dog. The dogs were circling each other and testing their boundaries. Then they started pissing on each other.
+1.
My friend walks around the corner and clocks me then and there. Your dog was pissing on another dog.
+1. Ha ha.
+1. Ha ha.
+1.
My favourite conversations with my dad are the ones about maths. I'm not very good at maths, but I like the idea of it. I like the idea that everything is reducible to basic components, because nothing is really that complicated on the micro level. Dad and I communicate through the interface of quantum theory, like this. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, good. How's...
Redacted. She's good. She had some dental surgery over the weekend, so she's just resting up. How's...
Redacted. He's good, busy with work stuff. What's a quantum field?
Quantum fields are ways of categorizing matter. There's an electron field, an electromagnetic field, a photon field, etc. All these fields interact with each other. From our level, it seems like matter can be broken down into smaller and smaller parts forever, but I don't think there's a vanishing point in the universe. When you zoom into the quantum level, it seems like there's a limit to how small a particle can be. The smallest unit is called the Planck length, which is about 10 trillion times smaller than an atom. The smallest possible particle would be a cubed Planck length. The smallest possible unit of time is also a Planck time, which is the time it takes for light to travel a Planck length. A Planck cube is the smallest unit in the universe. It's like a 5D pixel. It's either full, +1, or it's empty, 0.
So all of space and time is just ones and zeros talking to each other?
Maybe.
Like code?
Space is code. Code is social. Space is ones and zeros talking to themselves forever.
For example, my dad talks about computers like they're people. That server is talking to that one, etc.
For example, Saturn used to have a moon. It was named Veritas after the goddess of truth, who was molded out of clay by Prometheus. Veritas spun tighter and tighter circles around Saturn. When it swung too close, it obliterated. It broke down to tiny particles and formed a thin, flat ring.
I will use my telescope to look at Saturn. Saturn has something on it. I think it is made out of 3 planets that never move or touch.
I will look at Saturn, using a better telescope than the one Galileo had. Saturn has something on it. Annuto singutur tenui plano nusquam coherente ad eclipticum inclinato. I will keep my findings secret by encoding them in an anagram before I confirm my research. Ac dagilnupers2.
Don't you reckon this looks like he's sneezing?
Haha.
Thanks, Carly and Lujayn. Next up, we have Cecile Richard. Cecile Richard is a graphic designer, illustrator, zine maker, and game designer living in Melbourne. Their personal work often revolves around memory, connection, and belonging. They like birds and AFL. Cecile reads Endless Scroll, published by Voiceworks online.
Hey, I'm Cecile. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that this video and the game it features were made on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Sovereignty was never ceded. Okay, so this is my reading/playthrough of my game Endless Scroll. It's a game about regret, remorse, growth, and being online late at night. At several points in the game, there are branching pathways. That means I'll be choosing little bits of the story over other bits of the story, based on my own preferences. If you're curious about the other pathways and want to experience the game yourself, you can do that on Voiceworks online at voiceworksmag.com.au or on my itch page, hariva.itch.io. Thank you. Endless Scroll. Back in 2007, they closed the pond. They closed the pond near my grandparents' house. Every year, on the day before graduation, high school kids would jump from the bridge that went through it. It was a rite of passage of sorts, a custom. The custom dried out, just like the pond eventually did, when some kid jumped and never came to the surface. They found his body at the bottom of the pond, his arms and legs tangled up in the tall waterweed. After this, no one ever dared jumping into the pond.
Hey,
Hey, what's up?
can't sleep, lol.
Same.
Also, I'm working on this assignment due tomorrow, lol. I'm in hell. Anyway, what have you been up to lately?
Just lots of work. I feel a bit overwhelmed by all of it. And my high school reunion is coming up next month.
Ooh. My year's high school reunion was a few weeks ago, actually. It's not really my thing, so I never planned to go anyway, but from what I've heard, it was just really awkward. So, I'm glad I didn't go, lol.
The idea of going to a high school reunion terrifies me.
Oh no, how come?
Well, I'm really scared. That everyone knows me. Well, me at my most vulnerable, awkward, and weird. That somehow that's my true self, and my entire personality now is just to hide it. That they know who I am deep inside, and see right through me.
Yeah, okay, I understand that. It's too bad we didn't go to the same school. We could have gone together. We could sit in a corner and shit talk everyone else in the room. LMAO.
Haha, you're right. Still, I've been thinking about high school way too much. Like, more than a normal amount. I think a normal amount is mostly never.
Well, you ever go to any parties in high school? I literally never went to any, so I have like mostly no memory of that time outside of school and online, so I'm curious.
I went to like 1, maybe 2, both sucked.
Incredible.
I remember having a terrible time at one of the parties. Back then I refused to drink alcohol because I guess I just didn't think underage drinking was cool. But everyone else around me was drunk, and it felt really alienating. So I walked away. I went and sat by the river and watched it flow. It was a warm summer night, and I sat there for what seemed like hours. When I went back to get my stuff and head home, no one had noticed I was gone. It was weird. I was angry at myself for daring to expect that anyone would care. I was embarrassed that I wanted someone to see me and ask me what's wrong, but no one noticed. And realistically, who would? I had left. I didn't ask anyone for help or support or anything. I just left.
I'm sorry that happened. That sucks.
It's okay. Back then, I believed that I had to do all those things, or else I'm missing out on life. But there's more to life than being a teen.
Oof, yeah. I used to have these anxiety. Somehow I felt bad that I didn't do any of the stuff that people normally do in high school, like parties or dating. I didn't do any of that stuff, and I felt like I was missing out on extremely important life experiences. But it turns out that those experiences would have just sucked for me if I actually had gone through them. And suddenly it didn't feel as bad that I missed out.
That is such a mood. Want to hear a weird story?
Oh, absolutely.
I slept over at Abigail's parents' house the other day.
Wait, from school that you hated? LMAO.
Yes. She was at Rose's birthday party. I don't know how Rose managed to keep in touch with all these people from school. I guess she's like nice to everyone.
Checks out.
Anyway, so it was late when the party was over, and there are no trains back home. So Abigail invited me to stay over, and I just said yes.
God, you really are a yes man. A yes person is human?
I guess. I didn't have much choice, to be honest, but yeah. It was a bit weird. We talked a little bit before falling asleep. And it was actually really nice.
Really?
We had a casual conversation. We talked about what we've been up to after graduating. She said that she wants to change her major and go to a different university, but felt bad about leaving her parents behind while she moved cities. I couldn't see her face in the dark, but the excitement in her voice was mixed with guilt. I don't think I've ever, truly talked to Abigail before, and now I feel like a huge asshole for hating her and finding her annoying in school. We could have been friends. I don't even know why I was so mean, why I was so angry. It feels so stupid now.
I think we're all jerks when we're teens. Plus, there's literally no guarantee that you'd have been friends. I'm sure some people in your year did even worse than just being mildly annoyed at someone. You're fine in my opinion.
I'm not so sure anymore. Have I ever told you about Rebecca?
Nope. Who's that?
She was in my class back then too. She didn't have any friends. We always used her full name, never just Rebecca, because there was another Rebecca in the year who everyone already called just Rebecca. She never got to be called with just her first name. She was always the other one, the one no one wanted to talk to.
Yeesh.
I still think about her a lot. I was too cowardly to defend her. I thought it would turn everyone else against me, but none of that social status bullshit matters now. It never did, and I feel so stupid for never stepping up. Sometimes I fantasize about messaging her. I'd tell her I'm sorry. I'm sorry that everyone sucks. I'm sorry that I didn't say anything. I hope adulthood is treating you better. I wish someone told this to me too. Are you still there?
Oh, child. I've seen you struggle.
Whoa, what the fuck?
I've seen you regret.
What?
I've seen you linger.
Who are you?
I am fear eternal. I am sometimes God. I am with you, always. I am everyone's eyes on you.
You're watching me?
You look tired, child. Years spent looking back. Every day reminding yourself of your worst memories. Your waking moments consumed by guilt. Your dreams filled with regret. Oh, child, don't you feel like you deserve a break?
Maybe? I mean,
Don't you want to feel better?
yeah, I do.
Don't you want to give in to me and forget?
Wait, what?
You could let go of these memories. Let go of it all. One word and I will wipe it all away.
No.
But wouldn't it be easier to free yourself from the burden of the past?
But forgetting is wrong.
Is it really? Are you afraid?
Yes, I am afraid. I am afraid that if I forget, that remembering how terrible I can be might be the only thing that's stopping me from making the same mistakes over and over again. I am afraid that I could be fundamentally a bad person. I am afraid and I want to be better. But not like that. Not like that.
Then what do you wish for?
I want to remember, even if it hurts. I don't want to forget about Abigail or Rebecca. I don't want to forget what I did or didn't do. I want to forgive myself. I want to forgive others. I want to be loved, and I want to love. I want to feel better. I want to be better. I want to grow. And I will grow.
Thanks, Cecile. Next we have Rory Green. Rory Green is a writer, coder, and zine maker living on unceded Cockerill land. Rory's work has been published in Plumwood Mountain, The Lifted Brow, and Rabbit, and is part of Running Dog's Poetry Micro-Residences in 2019. They are currently an online editor at Voiceworks, and Rory will be reading Empathy XCX and Pete Wentz Came to Me in a Dream and told me to title this poem like a mid-2000s Fall Out Boy song.
Hey Freeplay, my name's Rory. I'm going to be reading some poems for you. The first one uses a thing called Markov chains, which is when you give a computer lots of text and the computer analyzes that text for how many times certain words appear, like how many times the appears or how many times and appears, and then produces a output text based on the probability of all of the text that is analyzed. So if you have the word sad in a text lots, sad is more likely to appear in the Markov chain. So this poem is made entirely up of phrases from a Markov chain generation, built from the lyrics of Charlie XCX's Charlie and Pop 2 albums, and Leslie Jamison's essay, The Empathy Exams. It's called Empathy XCX. Being asked seemed mortifying, partner of all your heart, what grows where I felt about desire. I've become someone enough to keep it. A month knitted them. I just wanted to believe in mood, but the problem was legible. I wonder, which means agreeing with statements like this. What forms of these accounts would tell them? I get cut open up, a funny word structure. I express feeling possessive of our way. I blame it on your picture revolving in my chest. Empathy requires inquiry as well. My fingers run away the dark. In my heart, I want this surgery in silence. Get too close, I'll pull up. I can usually feel guilt for hours. That poster hung above our encounters, our simulated crying. Let you summon the hardest parts. You are a pain scale, the bacterial evidence of closeness. You don't know its echo. It suggests empathy comes here. I felt the amount of me. It wouldn't last 2 years in a little bit of my chest. The second poem I'm going to read is not computer generated, but kind of came about by a few lines that I had thought of, and what I did was I pulled out a bunch of words that were in those lines and tried to rearrange them as many different ways as I could. I think it is similar to a lot of the computer-generated stuff that I work with, except just done manually with my gooey old brain. The piece is called Pete Wentz Came to Me in a Dream and told me to title this poem like a mid-noughties Fall Out Boy song. It's hard to feign rigour when poems are just zoos for feelings, / my feelings hate poems. They're rigorously faint. They come to my dreams, say, yikes, and then leave. My dreams are cranes, looming obstinate in the pastoral landscapes of poetry. Pete Wentz came to me in a dream, and he said, I am the godfather of your feelings. I trapped Pete Wentz in a pastoral landscape and called it a poem. I lifted my feelings with cranes, and they loomed in my dreams, pastorally faint with rigour. There's something to be said for yikes, not as a feeling, but as a poem, old as dreams. I trapped my feelings in the dream of language, so they speak only in poems. Pete Wentz came to me again, and he said, "Poetry didn't die. It went to live on a farm." I want to faint into my poems. I want to be rigorous with my feelings.
Thanks, Rory. Finally, we have Jess Cockerill. Jess Cockerill is a writer and artist based in Naarm, Melbourne. Jess's creative practice explores tensions between the non-human world and Western understandings of science, folklore, technology, queer, and neurodivergent experiences. They take animated media very seriously. Jess's written and illustrative work has been featured by the Walkley Foundation, the Best Australian Science Writing Anthology, Science Gallery Melbourne, Voiceworks, The Lifted Brow, National Young Writers Festival, ACME, Scum Magazine, Wurrung Projects, and Art in Australia, and more. Jess reads Pretty Guardians of a Queer Time and Space from Pluto.
Hi, my name's Jess, and I'll be reading an article that I wrote for Voiceworks Pluto edition for you today. It's called Pretty Guardians of a Queer Time and Place. So just thought I'd give a little bit of context because I'm only going to read an extract today. So the article's about the anime Sailor Moon. Mostly I'm referring to the anime version, not the manga version, because, well, I guess anime is something I'm more familiar with. And yeah, I'm talking about it in terms of Jack Halberstam's theories of queer time. Jack Halberstam's queer time is constructed in opposition to family, heterosexuality, and reproduction, which is understandable in the context of 20th century queerness, where family meant blood relation or hetero marriage, and where the domestic space was, and for many still is, paradoxically unsafe. Yet, Takeuchi's outer senshi show it is possible to form a family that is defined more by shared experience and loyalty to each other on this basis, reimagining domestic life on their own terms. In the future of Crystal Tokyo, normative and queer life cycles and family structures are in harmony. The relativity of time, space, and identity is embraced, and the senshi are stronger for it. Michiru, Neptune. But Haruka, this is her chance to start over, to have some peace at last. I know you mean well, Michiru, but it's beyond us to give Hotaru a normal life. It's just not possible. If she goes back to normal school, she'll stick out like a sore thumb, she'll have to jump grades every week, plus it's a waste of her power. I wonder when Haruka became the pragmatist. It would be too petty of me to remind them of their own hesitations in accepting their fate as a guardian. I knew when I first went after them that it would change their life forever. Once we accepted the life of a guardian, we couldn't go back. Do you want her to suffer again? To doom her like that? Doom her? Is this doom? To fight alongside me? Alongside us? I thought so once. Haruka didn't want to join me at first, and I would have let them go. They might have been a champion race car driver, competing in the Formula One, and me, a concert master, composer. None of that matters now. Michiru, it's her destiny, and it's ours too. No matter what we do, we'll always return here. Haruka is slouched over their laptop, sleeves rolled up, suit jacket slung haphazardly over the back of their chair. They run their hands back through their cropped hair, but it flops over their eyes again. They look older now, more weary than the bold and cheeky racer they were when we met, but still so handsome. I walk up behind them and squeeze their broad shoulders. They sigh. Well, is there room in this destiny for dessert? Crepes, maybe? Haruka laughs and shakes their head. Yeah, all right. I guess even magical girls need dessert. Go get Hotaru. I'll start the car. The outer senshi, Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto, are all individually far more powerful than the inner century comrades, Sailor Moon, Sailor Mars, etc., the ones you're probably more familiar with. Uranus and Neptune are the sapphic poster girls of Sailor Moon, controversially and unconvincingly censored in the American adaptation as cousins. Uranus in particular resists gender specificity, and I've no doubt that if Takeuchi wrote the manga in 2019, she would be non-binary. Neptune, on the other hand, is an archetypal femme, motherly, musical, and wise. While homosexual pairings abound in shoujo, they rarely endure. I've had many friends less familiar with anime mistake the prevalence of queer relationships for a kind of progressiveness, without noticing these pairings often arise for comedic, tragic, or fetishistic effect. But Uranus and Neptune are a welcome exception in the genre. Arguably, theirs is the only truly stable relationship in the entire series, including heterosexual pairings, subverting assumptions about the volatility inherent in queer relationships. However, as Catherine Bailey writes in Prince Charming by Day, Superheroine by Night, Subversive Sexualities and Gender Fluidity in Revolutionary Girl Utena and Sailor Moon, the Haru-Michi pairing is long-term, loving, and sustainable. None of their comrades judge them on the basis of their relationship, Bailey writes. In fact, in the Japanese manga, it nearly goes unnoticed. Perhaps this air of stability is Takeuchi's attempt to make their union more palatable to conservative audiences, just as she designed their appearances after the man-woman dualism. Regardless, the couple helped normalise queer relationships for a generation, and showed a queer trajectory need not be impotent or fleeting. Hotaru, Saturn. At night, I lie awake. My sleepless legs are screaming. Mummy says it's growing pains. I toss and turn, and stretch, and still they ache and ache. Daddy showed me stretches, I try them again. Brief relief till I lie back down. I don't know what's happening to me. It's happening too fast. When I sleep, my muscles soften, but my mind reels instead. Squirming shadows become solid. Tentacles, vines, archways, galaxies. I know they were real once, but I can't remember. Maybe this writhing darkness is hair. Serpents, dark rivers. They reach towards me, wrap around me. They mold my body into being, bring life to organs that I never knew. I am startled, and I wake. But I'm not alone. Someone is at the foot of my bed. They have my face, my body. They hold a staff with a violent hook on its end. Who are you? She smiles and moves forward. She's drifting. She doesn't walk. I'm Sailor Saturn, your protector. Her gloved hand reaches to my forehead, touching lightly between my eyes. The time is approaching. Now is the time to awaken. And light floods in. The shadows of my mind recede like worms out in the sun, and there, left in the light, is my pink-haired lady. My heart swells. She's smiling, she twirls and gives me rice cakes. She pulls me through the garden by the hand. Chibiusa. And then she turns away. A white horse gallops towards her. She runs to greet him. He is a man with long white hair. As he embraces her, she grows into a woman. Still in his embrace, she turns to look at me, sneering, and laughs. Queerness defies traditional age structures, and this is embraced by the same subcultures that Sailor Moon fans occupy. 21st century queerness incubated on DeviantArt, Tumblr, Grindr, Discord servers, and Archive of Our Own, spaces which are simultaneously public and private, which disregard time zones and life stages, corporate ownership and capital accumulation, and allow identity to be explored through fan fiction, fan art, and the self-determination enabled by online aliases. What it means to be an adult in queer time is very different to heteronormative notions that rely on career, reproduction, and stability. People who have lived their entire lives in the closet, for instance, come out and encounter a new adolescence later in life. Trans friends have described to me multiple puberties as they undergo new hormone therapies or learn new aspects of their queerness. As a bisexual person, I experience frustrating iterations of coming out every time I engage in a homosexual relationship after a period of time incognito. Hetero milestones, based on linear sequence and stability, essentially mean a queer person cannot be seen to truly grow up. This may explain why the I'm baby meme, which shows the gender-defiant hyper-chibi Kirby peacefully pointing to the token phrase on a whiteboard, resonated so much with millennial queers. Though animation has never been exclusively G-rated, it is widely deemed a children's media, and the popularity of Sailor Moon among fan cultures, along with other cute animated figures like Kirby, Pokemon, and the characters from Steven Universe and Adventure Time, may be seen as a proud refusal to comply with hetero time. In Sailor Moon, the age hierarchy is discarded, where schoolgirls are the Earth's only hope, and where the youngest Senshi, Sailor Saturn, is the most powerful of all. After realizing her identity as Sailor Saturn in Sailor Moon Super S, she literally ends time using her OP Silence Glaive, and is killed in the process, before being reborn as an infant in Sailor Moon, Sailor Stars. Sailor Pluto retrieves the baby Hotaru and raises her with Sailor Uranus and Neptune. Hotaru refers to her new family as Haruka Daddy, Sailor Uranus, Michiru Mummy, Sailor Neptune, and Setsuna Mummy, Sailor Pluto. For a brief moment, this little group has all the markers of a successful 1980s family. Uranus drives a slick sports car, Pluto homeschools Hotaru and the poetry of Basho, Neptune dons a motherly lilac suit. But the family these guardians form is decidedly queer, with 3 women parents raising a child who is not biologically theirs and who will, like one of Einstein's clocks through space, overtake them all, in intellect, power and chronology, awakening as a senshi and growing to her adolescent form within days of her rebirth. Thank you for having me, and I hope you enjoyed my reading.